Good evening in Manila and good morning in the US. Uh, we welcome to our monthly podcast at the Asia Pacific Insights, where security issues, foreign relations, and regional issues will be discussed. But for tonight, our topic will be the 10th anniversary of the landmark legal victory of the Philippines over China in an arbitral case decided by the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. The award was given to the Philippines, recognizing its economic entitlements in the West Philippine Sea. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that this is not a sovereignty award. It only involves economic entitlements and jurisdiction under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. So we're only discussing jurisdiction on who should extract, exploit, and explore resources in the seas. We are not talking about who owns the territory, who owns the seas, which China claims has its sovereignty. Apart from China and the Philippines, 4 other countries, Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Taiwan, are contesting, have conflicting claims on the body of water. It's a very strategic body of water where about $3 trillion worth of trade passes every year, and the area is also believed to be rich in mineral and energy deposits. So the Philippines won the arbitration, and the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague also nullified the historical claim of China, the nine dash line claim of China in the South China Sea, declaring it as extensive and illegal. So the Philippines should celebrate the award. However, China continues to ignore the decision and continues to claim undisputed sovereignty over the area. But remember, we are not after sovereignty, we are only after economic entitlements and jurisdiction over the area. Now, corollary to that decision is that the China's illegal, aggressive, and coercive and deceptive tactics has gone too far by claiming ownership over Batanes Islands in the northern Luzon area. A Chinese scholar said that Batanes is an extension of Taiwan. Since Taiwan is claimed by China as part of its renegade territory, they said that Batanes is also part of China. But because of the backlash of that scholarly research, the Chinese scholars has backed down and withdrew their claims over Batanes. But there is another controversy because China Daily, the mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party, issued some AI-generated videos and photographs depicting the Philippines as a bunch of monkeys being controlled by Japan and the US.
On the open sea, someone had put together the world's most wobbly karaoke stage.
Go on! Start singing!
We attempt to bypass China and initiate the so-called maritime delimitation talks.
Wrong song! Stupid monkey! We gave you the other lyrics!
Here it is.
Oh, for goodness sake!
Wait!
This wasn't in the script!
This is not only racist, this is somewhat undiplomatic, and the China Daily should took it down, no? Because it's an insult to all Filipinos. And so this will be the main issue that we're going to discuss tonight. So let's welcome our two co-hosts for tonight. From Boston, Massachusetts, retired Colonel Delcio Acop, U.S. Military Academy graduate, and former intelligence officer in the Philippine Army. So let's welcome Dennis Acop. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Manny, and good evening to everyone in the Philippines, and good morning to everyone in the US or wherever else.
Yes, and the second host is from Washington, D.C., a veteran defense reporter, my former editor at the ABS-CBN in Manila. Let's welcome Rodney Haleco. Rodney?
Yeah, good evening everyone there in Manila, and good morning Kanako. Kamusta po?
Good morning, Rodney. Yeah, okay naman. We're all managing, I guess.
Yes. It's good, no? It's good to see you again after a month.
Yeah.
And my first question to both of you, gentlemen, is how do you think the Philippines should pursue and implement the arbitral award we won in the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague? Because China continued to ignore the decision, maintaining sovereignty over the body of water, including the shoals and atolls in the area. Let's ask first Colonel Acop.
Thank you, Manny. Ano, wala namang pagbabago kung tutuusin natin in terms of what the Philippines should be doing differently. It needs to just continue what it has been doing in terms of what a country that has exclusive economic zone over the body of water surrounding its territory is supposed to do under international law, right? And again, this celebration of the 10th anniversary of the 2016 arbitral ruling, as we can see from the statements issued by the Philippines, along with the 13 allied countries, along with the European Union, celebrating the anniversary, because it not only is a victory of the Philippines in terms of its claims in the West Philippine Sea, but it's just setting in order what is recognized by all signatories of the UNCLOS as how everything should be treated, right, in terms of the bodies of water of the world. And of course, the rest of the nations, including the Philippines, they all have a common concern in terms of making sure that freedom of navigation, overflight, storage, transits over the bodies of water through the world are kept free, because it concerns everyone, right, in terms of trade, especially trade, the economic benefits, as Manny has pointed out. So, syempre, it really concerns everyone. And so if there is a country, even a very powerful one at that, like China, for instance, claiming ownership, I mean, it's a very strong, it's actually a very, very strong claim, di ba? Yung ownership of the South China Sea. I mean, that is something that, how can you expect other nations to live with that, right? para mong sinabi na they can no longer pass through the South China Sea, which connects the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean, and it's a transit point of trillions of cargo every year, di ba? Passing through narrow straits, beginning from the Taiwan Strait, and then passing through the South China Sea, Strait of Malacca, very, very narrow straits. And so these are all strategic choke points. So para mo sinabi na, oh, wala na, we can no longer trade. So where will all the countries trade pass through? Di ba? They will have to what? Go around Australia, and then, you know, di ba? Ang layo nun. And then to the Indian Ocean, ganyan. So it's like a throwback to the dark ages kung ganun yung ano. It's not realistic. So I think it's very fundamental. Kaya wala, any country, in the Philippines included, just needs to abide by the international order and the rule of law, which is basically the core issue at stake, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the main point, I think.
Okay. So, Rodney, your take?
Yeah, sa akin, the 2016 arbitral ruling is very important. No? It is significant in terms of setting the legal framework for defining yung ano, no, yung the authority or the right of China to claim almost all of the South China Sea. No? So when this came out, no, initially in 2016, I had some friends, no, they were like ridiculing it because they were saying, okay, we got this ruling from UNCLOS, but what does it mean? No, we cannot enforce this. How can you enforce that kind of ruling against China? No. But I think 10 years on, we already see the significance of that ruling, because the U.S. and other Western countries have been invoking, no? Not just supporting the ruling, but they have been invoking the arbitral ruling to assert, no, to enforce yung freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. You know, the South China Sea is if there is a lot of concern over the Strait of Hormuz, the South China Sea is more important because it's like 30 to 40% of world trade passes through that area. No, so any attempt to restrict access to that body of water will have global implications, which is why I think most of the world support this. No, if you ask what the Philippines needs to do at the moment, I think it still has to assert the ruling and lobby. Perhaps sabi nga nila, charity begins at home. I think the Philippines should more, as now the chairman of ASEAN, should exert more, I guess, influence or persuasion to the ASEAN members, because ASEAN has adopted most of the ASEAN member countries have kept a distance. No, they have not actually endorsed the ruling because they say that they don't want to be put in a situation where China might get mad at them. No, so right now it's only the Philippines and perhaps Vietnam that are really vigorously pursuing the implementation of the arbitral ruling. So I think the Philippines has the has the duty right now to to exert influence on the others, the other friends in the Southeast Asian nation community, to also get off their backs, get off their proverbial behinds, and embrace this ruling. Because, for example, for countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, and even Brunei, it's just a matter of time before they too are affected by China's expansionism. No? Right now, China is trying to modify its nine dash line claims, and they are starting to overlap with territories of Indonesia and Malaysia. So in that case, then there will be probably more conflict ahead, unless the arbitral ruling can be truly enforced. It has to be respected by all countries, especially those that are within the possible friction point, the conflict zones of China's sweeping territorial claims over not only the South China Sea, Manny, but they are even expanding that to the Taiwan Strait, no? Nasasama na yung Taiwan. Originally, when the Nine Dash Line theory came up in the 1940s, before they turned communist, this was a theory already adopted by China, yung mga scholars nila. And Taiwan was not included then because China and Taiwan were still one, before Mao Zedong took over. So hindi kasama sa Nine Dash Line yung Taiwan. But now they are modifying it na maisama na yung Taiwan doon sa claims na yon. And that will throw them right smack into the backyard of Japan, And so it's a really a messy thing that China is doing, and the only way to clean it up, to make some sense, make some put order in the claims, in the overlapping claims in the South China Sea, is by enforcing and respecting the arbitral ruling. Kasi that's the definitive ruling of UNCLOS, which even China is a signatory of UNCLOS. So the fact that they don't respect that ruling is a affront, It's a big contradiction for China.
Okay. So my understanding is that when the arbitral court tribunal made a ruling in 2016, the Philippines was very helpless, because the Philippines does not know whether it will gain support from other countries on its arbitral ruling victory. That's one. And number two, it has no navy to call itself to patrol and assert its position in the West Philippine Sea. And number three, even ASEAN is reluctant, to take sides, in the legal case, But 10 years forward, fast forward to 2026, the strategic environment has changed. Number one, the Philippines has now support from more than a dozen countries, including the European Union, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, United States, India, and other countries in the region. No? And one thing for sure is that Indonesia has already voiced its support to the arbitral ruling. No? So maybe we won't get that from Brunei and Malaysia because they are also claimant states. No? But uh, Indonesia's support is very significant because it's the largest country in Southeast Asia. No? And number three, well, you know that the Philippines has already uh, acquired, no, four ocean-going missile-guided frigates and offshore patrol vessel and other naval assets, including drones, including radars, including air defense system. So from 2016 up to 2026, the strategic picture has changed. So on this note, Colonel, do you think that there will come a time that China will be pressured to abide by the international law and the international ruling, given the uh, support we have from our international community and capabilities that we already slowly are gaining uh, in the Navy and in the Air Force. So, what can you say about that, Colonel Lakop?
Sabi nga ng mga Amerikano, Manny, ano yan eh, that's a Hail Mary. Parang that would be our wish, and it could be, it's definitely a possibility for any rational country to consider, right? Especially if the opposition from the rest of the world gets to be very, very strong. But I don't know. At this point, it seems to me like with everything that China has invested already into the matter, and if we look at the long history of China and its ascent to power, it seems to me that China has a very ambitious global agenda. And I think it goes deep, quite deep, politically, economically, socio-culturally, even in terms of if we try to read between the lines of the policies and pronouncements by the even just the open source public statements of the Chinese officials, and especially the remarks of the present leader Xi Jinping, we can see there an attempt to assert the I don't know, maybe the historical or the proper place of China in the world. If we try to see it from the point of view of the Chinese, right? It seems to me now that they have suffered in the past. They have been humiliated by the West. Even when the communists took over after World War II, the communist revolution under Mao Zedong and Taiwan, it connects with Taiwan presently. They always see the current realities with Taiwan as maybe a slap in their face, because the Chinese Communist Party has grown thanks a lot to capitalism, to be honest, also enabled by the United States since 1973 under Richard Nixon. So kung wala yun, medyo siguro China will not be the power it is today, because if we apply just the socialist communist blueprint economically, it doesn't work. It probably only works in terms of its distributive mechanism, right? Social nga eh. But in terms of economic production, it was actually dying or probably even dead when the U.S. under Nixon opened the floodgates for China to participate in the global economy, even making it its number one trading partner, right? And so China has grown even bigger economically than the United States today, and that is why China is asserting itself. The narratives in the South China Sea, uh, we are just seeing I think the current realization
Mhm.
of the Chinese aspirations. Now, uh, I think there's a fundamental, a core issue to all of this. The rest of the world, the so-called the West, the international order, rule of law. The Chinese, I think, sees that as a yeah, that's good for you, but what about us? You know, that's probably good for like uh, Western-led democracies. Kasi ang tingin ng China sa Amerika, ano eh, of course, America is the champion of democracies, right? It actually tried to advance democracy since World War II, seeing it as the best political structure for every nation to adopt in order to advance their respective societies' realizations. And it was, I think, the U.S. hoped that by welcoming China into the fold, it was hoping that, like you said, Manny, that China would finally see the light and also adapt its own thinking. Sabi nga nila, democratic peace. You know, the West, the U.S.-led West, including the Europeans, believe that there's such a thing as democratic peace. That if you are a democracy, you would not, be doing what China is now doing, because you will always see everything as a through the sabi nga nila, the idealist or liberalist perspective of international relations, which is dialogue, not the other one, which is realpolitik, which is might is right, which is what exactly China is doing, right? So makita natin na, but I think we cannot really expect at the end of the day China to behave like us. Why? We have to understand communism. I think China is the Chinese Communist Party. It is authoritarian. Its peoples are subordinated to the Chinese Communist Party. It's the Chinese Communist Party that dictates where everything is going in China. It's not the Chinese people. The CPP is China. So what I'm trying to say is that it's like oil and water not mixing. If the world expects China to become democratic minded like we are, like that's the international order and rule of law mindset. China is questioning that. It is challenging that. It is saying na, yeah, that's your order. That's the US order. That's the Western order. But it is not the Chinese way. It's not our order. We see it differently. We are trying to propose an alternative global order, hindi ba? So everything that has been operationalized, and in the South China Sea, we are seeing that reality of aspirations coming into reality and coming into fold. And since we let the U.S. bases go in the Philippines is a strategic foothold of the Americans in the Indo-Pacific, Asia-Pacific region. First island chain, the Philippines is the only American colony. So, kung tutuusin mo, the Philippines is an extension of the United States. It's an extension of global democracy, the advancement of global democracy through the world. But it happens to be, in Asia, the only Christian nation in Asia. It's right smack in the middle of the South China Sea. And now, under Xi Jinping, makita natin yung rise ng China eh. So kung sinasabi natin na the arbitral ruling was in 2016 during the time of Pinoy, that was because the Chinese have already become very visible in the South China Sea. Its claims to the disputed islands and islets became very pronounced, especially under Xi Jinping. During the time of FVR, I used to be with FVR's PSG, right? During the time, medyo hindi pa masyadong aggressive yung approach ng China in the South China Sea. I remember the late Roy Logoles. He was always the one who was like harping on he was one of the few who saw the true intents of China and what it was capable of doing in the South China Sea. Pero he was like a voice in the wilderness, right? Pero dahil umalis na yung mga Amerikano after 1991, syempre, bigla nang pumapasok yung China and what we see today is what has happened. And therefore, syempre, nakita ni Pinoy na what can we do? We cannot fight China militarily. So kung tutuusin mo, si Pinoy only did the only legal recourse to the problem, which is to file a case before the UNCLOS. Na teka muna, this is, and luckily, fortunately, there came that ruling, and it of course it favored the Philippines. Kasi UNCLOS tayo eh. Yung ginagawa naman ng China, anti-UNCLOS naman talaga yun, very clearly. It's all stated there, di ba? So, and yet, despite all of that, what have we seen? Has China, withdrawn because of the arbitral ruling since 2016? If anything, the 10-year anniversary highlights what we are seeing to be the real position of China. That instead of yung sinabi mo man na it embracing the ideals of UNCLOS, the democratic peace, sabi niya, makikita natin na no, we are, it just listens to its own interpretation historically, saying na no, Taiwan is ours. What's going on in the South China Sea is all connected. The Philippines is a monkey of Japan and the US, because it's only doing what these powerful nations want it to do. It cannot act on its own. It doesn't have its own mind. But really, what China is saying is that they know that no much naman ng Pilipinas sa amin eh. China is no much. The only reason why it's even saying what it's saying is because of the backing of the US, Japan, and the other allies. That's what it's saying. So kaya nga ayaw niya ng multilateral, di ba? Bilateral lang, because it's very strong like that. But also now, I think it's really going to a head. It's really dangerous for the world now, I think, because polarized talaga yan eh. Whatever you do is like oil and water not mixing. Democracy and communism, they're not going to mix. So yung Chinese Communist Party, whatever they're doing, they also see it as their own, as the existence, the continued existence of their party. To give into democracy is like the demise of the Chinese Communist Party. They're not about to do that. So I think, Manny and Rodney, what we're seeing is that it's a Hail Mary, but I think it's not going to happen, because it's like saying oh, China, it's time for you to forget your communist ideals and just return to democracy, how it was before the a communist revolution in China. Do we think that's going to happen at this point? So yan ang aking analysis ang nangyayari, Manny and Rodney.
Okay. So thank you, Colonel Rodney.
Yeah, yung sa akin,
Rodney, what's your...
Yeah, I will just take what Colonel Acop said for one step forward, no? Kasi sabi nga under
Yes,
communist.
thank you. Rodney, your take?
Yes. Okay. So what I'll just take what Colonel Acop said previously. I'll take it one step ahead, no? Yung communist system is a centralized government eh. So ang titingnan lang natin most of the times is kung ano yung ginagawa ni Xi Jinping, no? And the pressure that is exerted should be directed specifically to him and the I guess the Politburo, no, yung Central Committee nila. So yung the arbitral ruling is a tool. Tingin ko diyan, it's a tool, it's a weapon, no, na that is now available to the West to counter precisely the ambitions and machinations of one man in China, no? So the more that the Western powers invoke the arbitral ruling and use it, no, to champion the cause of freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, then the more we put a counterweight to the Xi's ambitions and his ability to wield, no, yung Chinese military power against everyone else, no? Especially the Philippines. So I think the possibility of changing President Xi's mind is always there, no? Ang question na lang dyan is, do the West and including the Philippines, no? Sama na natin yung, although we are a small part of it, but the question still is, can we have the sufficient counterweight, no, to blunt whatever Xi Jinping's plans are in the South China Sea, particularly in Taiwan, because like I said, the arbitral ruling is the legal framework to counter that. Kasi kung walang arbitral ruling yan, then what other option do we have? Yung bakbaka na, ganun. Yung talagang magkakasakitan na. There is a stronger, without the arbitral ruling, there is a stronger probability of some kind of kinetic na solution to the territorial conflicts in the South China Sea. So as far as I'm concerned, the arbitral ruling is a critical part of preserving the balance in the South China Sea and providing a counterweight to the ambitions of Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. So yeah, that's how I see it. The possibilities is always possible, but yung probability will depend not really on China alone, but on us, no? on the world, on the free world. What are they willing to do using the arbitral ruling to sway, no? to change, to convince China, which is just saying to convince Xi Jinping to change course, no? To stop his current expansionist ambitions, and try to work with the world, no? For a peaceful solution. So that's my point. That's my take on it.
Mhm. So, gentlemen, no, my understanding is that it is very difficult to pressure China to change its course. No? Probably one consideration is the strategic value of the South China Sea to China's national interest. No? Like in Ukraine, which Russia tried to build a buffer zone between EU and NATO and Russia. Nasa gitna kasi yung Ukraine, no? Maybe China is also doing the same by using the South China Sea as a buffer zone to box out, no? American, Australian, and other Western naval interest in that area. So I would like to ask Colonel Akop if he agrees with this kind of strategic reasoning by China.
Yeah, definitely, Manny. Arguing further yung sinasabi ko kanina, definitely so. I think China, sabi nga nila in some of the books that we read, China may not necessarily be after global leadership. Maybe China is content with being a regional power, which means basically controlling the South China Sea. It doesn't really need the other land masses in Asia. It only needs the South China Sea. Because why? Well, the South China Sea is a strategic resource in the world. Why? Food comes from the South China Sea. It does a lot in terms of feeding the billions of Chinese. Yung resources ng China is a bit medyo running out. There's a pollution, there's a consumption. I mean, it takes a lot of resources to feed a billion people, right? Not only that, there are also economic resources in the waters of the world. China is big on harvesting resources, especially for power, right? Hydro, gas, whatever. Also, the body of water, especially the South China Sea, is good for defense. There are so many, submarines under the water, including dumadami na rin ng ngayon unmanned drones, surface and underwater unmanned drones. So it's very strategic. So I think China thinks that if it can only control the Asia Pacific region, especially which is really centered on the South China Sea, it's enough. Any gains that it can that's also beneficial to it because of this dominance in the Asia Pacific region, I think it's a bonus and a surplus that it welcomes, of course. But then again, because we are seeing that the world is an interconnected global village, right? It cannot be helped na there is always an overflow of everything, politically, economically, you name it, socioculturally, as far way back, as far as Middle East, Iran, Strait of Hormuz, Ukraine. Siyempre, di ba? Kasama lahat yun because of this. But I think the main ambition of China is just controlling the Asia Pacific region. If we look at if sabi nga nila, if you look at Asia, right, it's like what 2/3 economically of the world anyway. Most of the economic activity in the world, most of the people of the world are in Asia. So if China can be dominant in this region, I think it thinks that it has a reverberating effect on dominance throughout the rest of the world. But that's only secondary, I think, to its primary goal, which is Asia Pacific dominance. So yun ang tingin ko sa ng China. Unfortunately, kung tutuusin natin, I think that the thorn at the side of China, though, is the Philippines, because like I said, the Philippines is like the spearhead of the US-led Western democracy, global moral order that is now being challenged by China. Yun ang And so, of course, we have the first island chain there. Kasi if we look back at history, that was a strategic move by the United States, right? Since World War II, even before that. You have the Philippines, and then Taiwan, South Korea, Japan. Siyempre, meron siyang presence dyan eh. And not to mention Australia, New Zealand are also its allies. So, unfortunately, so that's why we are having this tension now because of the presence of the first island chain. And so, all of a sudden, yun na ngayon yung China cannot really fully realize its ambitions, which I have tried to describe, because of this reality, right? Because of this reality. And going back to the point of si Rodney kanina, syempre, it's not just Xi Jinping also. It's the Chinese Communist Party. Si Xi Jinping only happens to be a Donald Trump in China right now. He happens to be the individual who is able to really put it out there. Okay, something that siguro ordinary leaders before him weren't able to do, but now we have a strong Chinese leader in Xi Jinping, and he is the one who is able to fully advance the agenda of the Chinese Communist Party, which they view to be ripe at this time. This is the proper moment for them. This is the time, and technology is also helping them a lot with this AI, quantum, everything. Nakakatulong sa kanila eh. They are now all of a sudden able to apply an important strategy of their warfare also, which is, as we know, yun nga, yung mga tinatawag na what is now commonly termed as gray zone narrative warfare and strategic lawfare tactics. Yung technology is helping China in that regard, di ba? Even there used to be a huge language barrier because of course the Chinese could not speak English, right? But now you have AI. All of a sudden we now have a lot of things that are being brought out through the world through technology na kahit na hindi naman talaga yung English speaking Chinese ang gumagawa niyan, but all of a sudden it's using technology to be able to advance its narrative. Ang nakikita natin, there's a lot of false narratives out there. China is able to infiltrate even the Philippines. It's able to get some of our countrymen to see it, to see their view, to actually be friendly with them even over the United States. Why is that? So, alam natin na siyempre there's the dynamics of money. The Philippines is vulnerable because of a lot of poor people there, but also there's a lot of greedy domestic elites there who want to preserve their stranglehold on the economy. So maraming ganun na nangyayari. So but of course, but I think in the end, yun nga, alam naman natin na the arbitral award, that is really the center of gravity. The international, its alignment with international rule of law. Sabi nga ni BBM, it is the cornerstone of the country's maritime policy and that of the rest of the world. So, yeah, that's the only thing we can do really. But with that, we have the support of the rest of the world. I think China is beginning to see that. That is why medyo nagiging intense na rin yung kanyang pushback, even with this monkey narratives and all that. So it's going towards that. Hopefully, ako naman being a dating sundalo, ang hope ko lang dyan is that I hope it doesn't really it doesn't have to lead to a military confrontation. Kasi sa tingin ko yan ang pinakadelikado eh. So far we are seeing na ala Sun Tzu, the Chinese are able to do everything else short of war. So it's advancing its national interest, of course, the interest of the Chinese Communist Party, of course, everything short of war. So it is our hope na it doesn't really cross that line, right? Ang problema natin, what if it does? Then it becomes, wala na, yun na yung matatapos na lahat itong usap-usapin na ito, including a code of conduct in the South China Sea. Mabuti nga so the more we keep on talking, I think, even if it's hopeless, that's better than crossing over to war. That's my take, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Colonel Rodney. Do you have the same opinion?
Yeah, I agree with Colonel Akop, no? But I also want to add that the South China Sea is existential for China because yung economy kasi ng China is basically export, di ba? Trade ang niya, and it's the South China Sea is the coastline for its biggest cities, no? Yung Shanghai and all the industrial hubs, most of the industrial hubs ng China straddles this South China Sea. So sa kanila existential talaga yung control ng South China Sea, which is why I guess they're pretty aggressive with what they're doing now, no? Because simply that if somehow the Western powers are able to restrict yung access ng China sa South China Sea, that's the end for them, no? Because they live on trade. They are a manufacturing. They are the factory of the world, sabi nga nila. So they need to be able to bring in the raw materials, especially oil from the Middle East, and ship out the finished products, no, to the US and the rest of the world. So, and the only way they can do that is through if they secure their shipping lanes, no, sa South China Sea. So basically, in addition to what Colonel Akop said, I think that's one other element that that dictates the strategic interest of China in the South China Sea.
So, Colonel Akop mentioned earlier that the South China Sea is part of the First Island chain on China's part, no? But the US considers Philippines, Taiwan, and Japan as its first island chain. Now, we have seen China's narrative about Batanes and now about the monkey commentary, no, ng China Daily. So, what does it say, Rodney? Do you think that China is now trying to set up its second island chain?
Yeah. Let me comment muna, Mog, sa ano naman doon sa yung monkey AI na yon, no. You know, for me, it just it's just a very clear demonstration of their frustration, you know. Talagang frustrated na yung China with us because you know that AI came out on the anniversary of the arbitral ruling, di ba? So
Yes, yes.
it just shows how frustrated they are that they have to resort to that kind of you know, vilification sa SOCMED pa, no? Kasi I think they're running out of options on how to deal with the Philippines. It's nagiging personal na ba? Kung wala ka ng issue, di gagawin mo personal, di ba? And okay, so your question was about what, Manny? Na ano ko dun sa unggoy-unggoy na yun. What was your question, Manny?
Well, is it part of the China's plan to set up its second island chain, moving further from its first island chain?
Oh yeah. Okay. Now you mentioned about Batanes, no, which is you know, when China makes these kinds of pakulo, there's usually something story behind it. So when their scholars started claiming that Batanes is part of Taiwan and therefore part of China, and that came after the Philippines and Japan agreed to start negotiations dun sa delimitation of their respective exclusive economic zones, no? So medyo, I think China was taken aback by that development, and they are now trying to lay down the framework so they can keep the Philippine and Japanese EEZs separate, no? Kasi pag nagdugtong yung EEZ ng Philippines at saka Japan, tapos na sila, no? Even if they invade and eventually control Taiwan, that would be moot kasi napapanigiran na sila ng EEZ ng Japan and the Philippines. So right now they are trying to put up a buffer to separate the Philippines from Japan, no? And the way they do it is by making that absurd claim that Batanes is part of Taiwan, you know? So if you ask that if the Philippines is part of the West First Island chain, yes, very. It is a critical part. I even submit that it is the central, no? It is the critical central part of the First Island chain because ito yung direct path Ito yung direct path ng China if ever it wants to break out into the Pacific, as apparently President Xi wants to do, no? And Batanes is integral, no, to whatever plans President Xi might have for the invasion of Taiwan. Because in the past, Batanes was the, during World War II, Batanes was the gateway of the Japanese. No, yun ang Batanes. They occupied, the Japanese occupied Batanes first, and it became the first American occupied territory to be occupied, to be invaded by the Japanese during World War II. Kasi ginawa nilang base yung airport sa Basco to attack Clark, no? Parang refueling nila yung yung Basco, doon sila si stage for the attack to Clark, no? Ngayon baliktad na, I think the situation is baliktad. It's reverse because Taiwan, if China manages to impose a quarantine, no? Let's say a blockade, the only way to get to Taiwan would be through Batanes, no? Yun ang natural transit point. So imbes na north to south ang flow ng military action, it will be south to north ngayon. Batanes will be crucial. So I think even China this early recognizes the strategic importance of Batanes, and they're now laying a groundwork for justifying, just in case, God forbid, that they push through with their plans on against Taiwan. That Batanes will be an extension of that action. Taiwan and Batanes ang magiging direction nila. Just in case, if that event comes to passes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Colonel, what do you think about this Japan-Philippines negotiation for delimitation on maritime zones? What can it do for deterrence in the region?
What do you mean by delimitation of maritime zones by Japan and Philippines, Manny? What are
Well,
you
they are now discussing how to manage their overlapping EEZ in that area. I think in the Pacific, but the area also covers Taiwan because Taiwan is in the middle between Okinawa and Batanes. No?
You mean between Japan and the Philippines?
Japan and the Philippines, there will be more cooperation because they will be patrolling these areas because they will have an agreement on how to delineate the boundaries of the EEZ.
Yeah. It's connected with the ambitions of China relative to Taiwan, and now of course any opposition to that, especially Japan's growing strength, including defense military strength in the region to protect its own territory and EEZ relative to aggressive Chinese actions relative to Taiwan, and same with the Philippines. The Philippines, yung defensive strategies and tactics it has been adapting these past few weeks because of Chinese aggression relative to us as well. And now everything is interconnected because of the Taiwan issue, right? So nandyan yung Japan and Philippines, and so of course this thing about interconnecting EEZ between Japan and the Philippines is also a counter to China. It's also a counter to Chinese aggression, diba? Because of course China knows that these countries are all allies against its own aggressive actions in the South China Sea. So anything that Japan and the Philippines do, along with the support of the US, Australia, or whoever else in the region, relative to countering Chinese ambition, syempre, China will always come up with a narrative against it. And I think the alleged Chinese research on on Batanes, and all of that is related to this. Like I said, it seems to me that China has also mastered the strategy of doing just about anything short of other than war or short of war. So even if we are seeing a lot of military maneuvers that China has been doing in order to intimidate or even coerce Taiwan, right, or the Philippines. So far, thank God, it has been short of actual, military conflict. And I think China hopes na by doing that, and it will be able to achieve its aims. Even Taiwan, I think China is hoping na, oh, this is what we are capable of. You are already seeing. Why don't you just come back to our fold anyway? Pare-pareho lang naman tayo, ganyan. And yung Philippines naman, China is basically saying to us na okay makialam. Okay, just we are happy to give you what you want. Okay makialam. But Japan is a problem to China because China is aware of Japan's power, of relative power, and it cannot. Japan is not a weak country. It's also U.S. troops are actually stationed in Japan, right, along with South Korea, and going back to this issue as well. There's the Ryukyu Islands as well as Batanes. There are U.S. forces on these islands. Yan ang isang tignan natin. Yan ang isang concern siguro din ng China. Kasi, di ba, we've been talking about missiles, and there are now deployments in the Ryukyus. This is the island chain southwest of Japan, close to Taiwan and China, right? And Batanes, nasan ba ang Batanes? Just south of Taiwan, and overlooking the Taiwan Strait. So there are already troops and emplacements on these islands. So, syempre, natural. China is also thinking about these deployments. In case of an actual military invasion of Taiwan, delikado sila because if there are emplacements on these islands, and ever since post-Duterte administration, the Americans have been able to have their presence more and more in the Philippines. That has been a concern of China. China is, kung sa Duterte administration, siguro parang they think na they're already in looking out. But now, under the BBM allied with the US, China feels na it is outside looking in relative to the Philippines, right? So while it has presence in the Spratlys, yung kanyang sa West Philippine Sea or South China Sea, but they're parang nasa labas sila eh. Hindi kamukha noon na madali silang pumasok sa atin. So in case of an actual invasion of Taiwan, they cannot really say that they can easily gain strategic or tactical foothold in the Philippines unless things change. Kaya siguro kaya importante rin yung 2028, if there's going to be a political change in the Philippines as well as the United States. So konektado lahat yan eh. Sara Duterte, the ongoing impeachment, di ba? If there are local leaders favorable to China, then of course, pabor sila dyan. And you know what, we are all aware of what China is capable of doing. So there is no doubt in my mind that all of these things they are doing, even if silently, and we are not able to see these things. But we believe that they are happening, and we see the manifestations of this in troll farms, in false narratives, in local officials publicly professing China-friendly statements. Almost sometimes even against the Philippines, so which is really strange, right? Pero nakita niyo yung point ko dito, I think yun yung isang frustration ng ngayon ng China. That is why kung wala na silang maibato, ayan na lumalabas na yung mga I don't really know how that helps their cause though. yung by coming up with these preposterous or even silly claims on the Philippines, di ba? I really don't know how that advances the interest of China. Kaya kung minsan I also question yung iba siguro yung mindset ng mga Chinese na akala nila by doing that and being public about it, parang I really don't know how it helps their cause though, yung tong bastusan diplomacy. Apparently to them though it makes some sense, but to us, to the rest of the world, it doesn't. So I think yun ang strength ng Pilipinas. So the Philippines just needs to keep on doing what it's already doing and have the rest of the world with it, pushing back on China. Yun ang strength ng Pilipinas. So kung gusto ng China ng labanan, parang napupunta na rin tayo sa wala kaming magawa kung yun ang gusto mo, but we have the strength of Japan, we have the strength of the US or whoever else wants to help us. So nandun ngayon yung sitwasyon. So now medyo parang patas na yung laban, di ba? Dati one-sided yung laban, feeling ng China, kayang-kaya to, Pilipinas lang. But now, the Philippines with its allies and the rest of the world in both diplomacy or military combat power, parang at par na ngayon. And I think that's where the frustration of China lies now, guys.
Okay. Going on my last question, no? Starting tomorrow, there will be a ASEAN ministerial meeting in Manila, and U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio will arrive tomorrow until he will be in Manila until Thursday, and so the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and of course there's Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, UK, and EU. So what can you expect from the meetings because there will be discussion on the regional security and on the proposed code of conduct in the South China Sea. Any thoughts on this, Rodney?
Yeah, sure. Secretary Rubio will probably speak in strident terms with the U.S. expectations about China, no? Basically, because just the other day, President Trump, in a nationwide address, no? Parang inipit niya yung China na in-implicate niya dun sa supposed to be some electoral manipulation ng 2020 elections dito sa United States. No? But still, the president still wants to meet with President Xi, no? Later this year. No? He has an open invitation. So, medyo, the US and China has a very, very complicated relationship right now under President Trump. So I think Secretary Rubio will basically echo the concerns of the Philippines and other countries in the region that are worried about China's actions in the region, particularly in Taiwan. No? And I guess this meeting would be a welcome opportunity for everyone concerned, no? About from the ASEAN and East Asia community to thresh out their issues, no? Myanmar siguro will be a ASEAN topic, but this will with the presence of foreign ministers from the US, Japan, Russia, South Korea, Australia, no? This is going to eventually veer towards South China Sea, no? And this will be, I think, one of the, if not the main focal point of the dialogues, no, of the meetings. Kasi I believe there will also be like 2-and-1 and 1-and-1 meetings with the member countries, with the powers, no, with they will have opportunities to meet separately with Secretary Rubio, with Minister Lavrov, and all the others, no. And siguro ako, I would expect, no, the Chinese would be something, they would be stepping up some kind of ito na naman yung unggoy-unggoy na tactics nila, no. I expect them to do that all over again while this meeting is being held. I don't know in what form, but si Ambassador Jing Quan ng China dyan sa Manila, ito na nga, he is the epitome of the wolf warrior, no? Kung tatanungin mo si Jay Tariela, he is the epitome of the Chinese wolf warrior. So, yeah, they will likely use this forum, no? A series of meetings, no? Actually, hindi lang naman to ASEAN, di ba? May East Asia pa, may there are I think 4 or 5 na simultaneous meetings, no? Conferences during this span in Manila, and they will have some challenges, especially for ASEAN, the member countries that have to deal with China, no. I don't know if they can get a common communique. I think in the past they always struggled with a common communique as far as China is concerned. But I also expect them to speak about Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, and Myanmar, and other topics. So that's my expectation, Manny, about that series of meetings in Manila.
Yeah. So, ganun lang ako. Your take?
In addition to that, well, it's always a positive development whenever countries and their representatives are willing to come together in order to seek a peaceful resolution to rising conflicts, right? So I think this latest initiative is of course welcome. Kaya lang at the back of our heads as well, knowing their core positions, unless China suddenly welcomes an approach that is not necessarily aligned with UNCLOS, then I think things can change, right? Pero alam naman natin na the basic tension is in even coming up with a code of conduct, even ASEAN related, which is not aligned with UNCLOS. And we already know that the Philippine position, as well as all of the other countries' position represented by those foreign ministers, are all for the sustainment of the international order and rule of law, which is manifested by UNCLOS. So I don't see how that can be acceptable to the Chinese, right? Alam naman natin na they are all for anything other than that, which is really questionable. But I also think that kaya nga I think my view is along with other analysts who see this latest initiative as a mechanism for managing friction and preventing total escalation rather than a definitive solution regional claims. I echo that position. I also think that as far as these countries are concerned, there is always value to coming together in order to find out what the others are up to. Di ba? Kumbaga sa intelligence, it's going to be an intelligence gathering. I think that's the real core of it. When they come to dialogue, even with vastly opposing views, at the back of their mind, syempre, you know, when they interact with each other, especially between the officials of China and the rest of the other foreign ministers, they'll be thinking na, ito pala ang posisyon ng ano, ito pala ang posisyon nila, di ba? I think that's the value of that. And then when they go back to their enclaves, they report to their heads of state and say, and then they will recalibrate again and see what they need to tweak in order to advance their national interest position. But at the end of the day, their position will not reach. At this point, I think it will not change. It will only be to adjust it a little bit based on what the positions of the other contenders are at the moment. I think that's yun lang yung magagawa niyan, but it will be again a Hail Mary if we suddenly see na there's going to be a code of conduct. In fact, a lot of critics even say that even if there is a code of conduct document, but how do you implement that, if ever, right? Who has the power to implement that? Di ba? China nga, member nga siya ng signatory nga siya sa UNCLOS, pero hindi naman siya sumusunod sa UNCLOS. See, di ba? So there'll be a lot of talk, and it's good so long as it doesn't cross over to war. And but also the value of this is that it will only add to every stakeholders strategy and tactics at the moment. Dumadaan kasi ang panahon eh. So every time that passes adds to the calculation of kumbaga sa parang pusoy eh, di ba? Parang to the gain. It's adding up until when. So it's always going to be like that. So I think we will see a lot more of that. Hopefully, for me, okay lang yon. So long as stakeholders are talking, so long as nothing crosses over to actual military conflict.
Okay, thank you. On that note, I thank Colonel Acop and Rodney for joining us tonight's podcast on the 10th anniversary of the arbitral ruling that the Philippines won over China. And we invite our viewers to join us again next month for another episode of the Asia Pacific Inside podcast. So good night, thank you, happy weekend, good morning again to the US, and good night to the Philippines. Thank you.
Salamat, Manny, Rodney, Ana.
Thank you.
See you again next time.
Thank you.
Good morning and good evening to everyone.